Hello, my members. It's Hima here, and I have got a members deep dive for you looking at Netflix into earnings. Today's Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Okay, Netflix is reporting after the close, and obviously we're in a very crazy world where some of the FANG stocks might fare better, such as Netflix or Amazon, and some might be negatively impacted due to the COVID crisis. So for this earnings season reflecting Q1 2020, I'm going to put out to my members a video every time a FANG stock is reporting. So before we look at Netflix, important reminder that trading and investing can be extremely risky business. Therefore, it's your responsibility to evaluate any information, opinion, advice, or other content contained in this video. Now this panel right here in my trade station should look familiar to many of you. It's the screen that I bring up when we have monthly group coaching live, which is for the full skinny lifetime, 4 zones RSI coverage system, loss forecasting trading system, and GAN trading pattern system. Now, I have my multi-time frame analysis going, and we've got the weekly chart of Netflix in the bottom left. So what I want to show you is that with Netflix at new highs, and I guess, from a fundamental view, this is not that surprising, right? Netflix being a stay-at-home kind of service is obviously got a lot of people taking it in right now, maybe even signing up for new memberships, etc. But we're here to focus on the technicals and the charts. And I want to show you a couple things. For starters, the pretty point that we had was a week early in calling the surge in Netflix that was into Friday, April 17th. So that was really helpful to keep an eye out for. The price action off of the March 20th weekly low was right off the bull support power zone. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to get a pullback of this degree, but this is a point at which I recommend connecting the lows on the RSI power zones and drawing out potential RSI trendline buy, which is in your 4 zones RSI coverage system. Again, this is just the initial setup. We don't have the signal yet. Looking back at price, not only did we have a surge, but it cleared the highs from April 2019, the highs from June 2018. And what I have here is a GAN projection, because we're in brand new territory for Netflix, never been traded at these prices before. So how do you have an expectation of resistance levels when there's no past price action? That's where I use GAN projections. This is detailed in a tutorial in the full skinny lifetime, so you can go brush up on that if you're not sure how I drew this out. So you can see that we came up to the 62.5% projection, 445.77, capped at 449.52. And remember, this is a projection that could have been made as early as the formation of the December low. And look at the accuracy it gave us many, many months, technically a year and a half out. So this is what's going on in the weekly chart. Now, one key factor to look at ahead of earnings being reported this afternoon is this. 50% of last week's range is 408.61. So that is a weekly level that I want to add on to the daily chart, which you're going to see me do. In fact, I'm even jotting it down on my own post-it before I move to those charts. Now, I was working with a coaching student late last week, and we looked at her ES trading and how sometimes she's totally right on the analysis from a daily or weekly chart perspective, but taking the trade too early because her charts aren't identifying weekly resistance different than daily, weekly than 60-minute. So a suggestion I came up with is to make weekly trend lines or weekly pretty points or weekly projections a thicker line on your charts. And that way, if you're going to stay on that chart and then shift your analysis to a different time frame, those lines stay thick. So that's a pointer that everyone can benefit from. The other support to look at here is these old highs from February. I think that if there is, for any reason, a gap down after earnings release, there would be decent support at those levels. So I'm going to take the higher of the two, 393.52. So what I'm going to do, like I said, is bring these two weekly levels onto the daily chart as a thicker line. Let's see what I used here. This was a 1, 2, 3, 4 setting on TradeStation, okay? And then look at the actual daily support levels. Before we get to that, in terms of GAN trading patterns, on the weekly chart right here, I don't see a new move, a new opportunity just yet, but maybe we'll see one on the daily chart. So now we're on that daily chart of Netflix. So here we have daily chart lines, and we'll keep those at the standard 2 thickness and TradeStation. But now I'm going to add in those other levels from the weekly chart. So this way you can, on one time frame, see the importance of various support resistance levels without having to jump around your charts as much. And check this out, okay? So I'm going to move the label to the right, or away from the right, for the weekly one. And look at this daily level I had. Now this is a previous 2-bar low. This is something I go into in the Gann trading pattern system. So that's an important level to watch. And remember, we had these old highs. Well, on the daily, there's 392.95, but on the weekly, there's the higher of the two. So I need to go grab another one of these trend lines, change the thickness, and plot that 393.52. And see how it reinforces that? Anytime you can get 2 supports or more, or 2 resistance levels or more, to get really tight around each other, it makes it stronger, okay? It's like having a floor underneath you made out of cardboard, which you can easily stamp through, versus, made out of cement, which is obviously much stronger, okay? So checking out the current action on Netflix and where it's poised into earnings, let's now look at momentum and timing and see if there's any Gann patterns. So I'm going to squish this up for a moment because I like to do this on daily charts so that I can see at least 6 months worth of price action, if not more. All right. So there's a pretty steady flow here that we had in price action before this big breakout, right? And from an analysis perspective, we could draw a very big cycle out. Again, it's way beyond the length of a desirable cycle, so it's only useful for some level of analysis, not for trading. Okay, so I'm going to just keep that on there to keep my eye on August. Coming back to the current price action and cycles, there is this shorter pretty point where I defined it this way because of the Gann drives. All of this 1, 2, 3 moves higher, and then this correction, which is why this is a pretty point I want to keep an eye on next. Yes, we've whipped beyond it, but I still would keep an eye on that magnet of price and time, okay? So how Netflix will react to earnings, presuming earnings have been steady or improving, given the type of stock and company it is in this environment. When there's good news, we don't always see a rally after earnings. We might see a gap down because the good news was baked in some of this price action. But either way, you can set out your support and resistance levels in advance, like I just did here, to best be ready for opportunities that may emerge and take advantage of them, despite the world being crazy, despite earnings being volatile time, okay? So I just wanted to show you the full trifecta in motion here, price, time, momentum, and keep an eye out if you happen to be trading Netflix. All right, catch you next time.